She is on a tight deadline. Oh, she's on a tight deadline. I want to, for those of you who don't know, Abby Van Dever, even though we've been talking with her, she has almost over 30 books to her credit, Wall Street Journal and a USA Today bestseller. I've been reading the Romy Wilder series, which she has 3 coming up 4.
No, 3, just 3. Yeah.
Just, I want to say this in the nicest possible way. This better not be the last book in this series.
Well,
I'm just saying to you in the nicest way possible.
That was Henry Press. That was my first traditionally published book because I'm a self-published, I'm a hybrid author. That's kind of in my intro. So we'll skip that part when we get to it. And, so they found me self-published. They found my book and they wanted to publish it. So that's the book they published. And then I got an agent from that. An agent contacted me. Henry Press contacted me, and then an agent contacted me. I didn't do any querying. And so when I got an agent, we didn't go again for that series. But I guess I could write a 4th one on my own. So now I'm at Penguin and Lake Union. So
yeah, I love it. It's
thank you.
It's I was telling her before, I know the main character has an aunt. Well, actually, she's a co-main character. I know that woman. I know who she is. But Abby's also a lawyer and
Used to be
a professor,
economics professor.
Yeah, I live with one of those. It's, you people are hard to live with. Don't spend that 30 cents for that.
Prices will go down.
Prices will go down, right?
The supply goes up, right?
So I'm going to turn this over to her because she doesn't have a whole lot of time. We're going to be getting a slice of her Writer's Digest course on diversity. And for those of us who write Black characters, and every time we write them, wonder, are we doing it right? This course, she is for you. She is for you. Abby, thank you so much and welcome to Malice in Memphis.
Thank you. Glad to finally be here. We had a couple kerfuffles, but we made it. I can't even say the word. That's how we went. I need to be able to share my screen. Can you, the host needs to make it so I can share the screen.
Lynn?
Done.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I have a PowerPoint presentation somewhere. You're gonna have to watch me as I start from the beginning, as I set it up. Okay, so as she said, as Jackie said, partly what I said, I'm Abby Vandiver. I also write as Abby Collette. Those are pseudonyms. Vandiver is actually my maiden name though, my real maiden name, and Collette is actually my real middle name. Abby, just who knows where that came from. I started out, as I said, I'm a hybrid author. I started out writing books on my own. Took a break from being a lawyer. I got sick. I was sick for about 4 years, almost practically bedridden. So I certainly couldn't go to the courtroom, and I started writing books. And I found that I'd rather write about murderers than represent them in the courtroom. So that's what I've been doing. And I also teach classes on self-publishing. I did all my covers. So all the covers you see on here, except for a Daily Inside Scoop and Secret Lies and Crawfish Pies. This one doesn't have my other ice cream book. I did the cover on there. So I save a lot of money. I try to share that with other authors as I go along. So I've always been Black. And so I've always written about Black characters, and that just came naturally for me. So, but as things progressed in the publishing field and diversity became a thing, which probably should have always been a thing because it has always been a thing. More was made out of me writing Black characters than I guess other people who came along before me. So I'm really just standing on their shoulders. And I didn't really have the fight that you'll find that people who have been in this industry for a long time have. So here we have a lot of people. I wanted to go around the room, but we don't have much time. I wanted to talk about, where did you, usually I ask the question, what are you working on? I'll let people tell me what they're writing, where their story is, how long they've been working on the story, things like that. Today, I was going to just ask the question, what makes you think that you may need help? What kind of stories are you writing, and including marginalized people in? And what kind of, roadblocks or hindrances or worries do you have? But we have a big group and we only have a half an hour. So
Well, let Abby, why don't they put their questions or responses in the chat?
In the chat, and someone will have to help me read them. I'll look at them because I can't see anything anymore.
All right, I'll help you read.
Okay.
Right.
And certainly questions too. And I should have said this initially, I apologize. I like things to be conversational. So if you have a question while I'm speaking, please just speak up and let me know, because I usually forget stuff by the end.
All right, then if you don't mind, I'll start off.
Okay.
And I will talk for Lynn, who clearly has never been able to talk for himself. But I have been working, I have a novel out called Justice Tomorrow that is a partnership between a young white woman and a young Black man in 1965, Georgia. And yeah, and because I went to the University of Georgia, spent some time down there. And I'm writing the sequel now. And Lynn has a Black character who solves mysteries in Arkansas.
So that's his main character?
Yes. Well, yeah, the character's name is Loretta Jean, and it's a cozy mystery. And she's a 67-year-old retired head housekeeper for an estate. And she suddenly finds herself involved in finding out who killed her former employer. And she does so with the help of a antique radio that plays songs that gives her clues to who the murderer is and how the murder took place.
Oh, I love that premise. But so I'm asking, why did you pick a Black person to be your main character, a Black woman?
The voice just came in my head. For
Did
one, the voice came in my head, and number two, it's like I've written things in the past that I've written sort of writing a paranormal romance, and one of the characters in it is African American Black lady named Katie, and so I guess one of the reasons is that I grew up here in the South with strong older Black women that have influenced me at times. And for some reason, it just resonates with me. So I can feel their voice and their presence whenever I write.
So two things jumped right out at me, is that your character is a domestic, and so maybe that's why she's Black. And the second thing that jumps out at me is this is your main character, so you have to be speaking from her perspective. And Blacks don't usually refer to themselves as African American. That's a politically correct thing. So, you'd have to, one of the things I talk about when I do the full thing is learning the culture. I'm not African American. I'm not African. I'm American and I'm Black. And most Blacks feel that way. So those two things, just from your elevator pitch, jump out at me as that's what people are talking about now. The diversity. Can you get it right? How do you go about getting it right? And as you said, you've grown up around people like this, and that was sort of Catherine Sackett's thing when she wrote The Help, which initially started out, people loved it. Movie was made, and then there was a whole lot of stuff like, could she write that story? Same thing with American Dirt and Janine Cummins. Can she write that story? So, and that's what I talk about today. Can you write that story? What's your motivation for writing that story? So we'll go on from there. But I love that premise and I love that radio idea. That's very good. Okay, marginalized groups exist nearly everywhere. They are people who, for whatever reason, are denied involvement in mainstream economic, political, cultural, and social activities. So I've never heard it defined this way, but I define it this way. Marginalized groups are everyone but white men, because women have been in that position. You know, so matter if you're white or not, you've been in that position. And so the only ones that haven't are white men.
No, wait a minute. I'm a gay white man.
Okay, so you're good. You are definitely marginalized.
Okay, because I
You're
was
in a-
like,
you're in a marginalized
I'm like,
group.
don't
I should say white
whitewash me.
straight men. Sorry, I
Thank
missed
you.
straight. White straight men are probably not in that group. Are not in that group. Probably everybody else. So the old adage, it's been attributed to Mark Twain, and says, "Write what you know." So do you write what you know? I mean, if you're me, I'm a Black female. Do I only write about Black females? Basically, I do, but I do have male characters, and I do have characters from other backgrounds and ethnicities. But that's the thing that we were always, has always been told to writers: write what you know. The thing about that is, when you write what you know, you limit your imagination, right? Because we can think wider than the things that we know. We just discussed that, how you can get on Google Earth, even though you don't always get it right, but you can get on Google Earth or Google anything and find out things. You can travel. You don't have to know everything about something to write about it. So it limits your imagination. It limits your craft, what you can write about. It limits your intellect, because that way you don't reach out to grow and find out more things about other things in the world. And it makes your writer a prisoner of your own experiences. Some of us don't have a lot of experiences. Some of us grew up, especially I write like that, characters that grew up in a small town or are still in a small town, and they don't do anything else and go anywhere else, and it's just what they know. Can they not write books? Can they not include characters from other cultures? Certainly they can. So what is it then? Is it write what you like? I don't think that that's true either. I don't think you can just write what you like, because you don't, as we just discussed, you don't always get it right. You don't always get it right, and you have to be careful. One must always be careful of books and what's inside of them, for words have the power to change us. So when you get it wrong in a book and it becomes a bestseller, people start to believe that, right? They believe the things that you've written, because that's how we gather information. That's how we gather knowledge. I remember a long time ago on an Oprah Winfrey show, and I don't watch that show, and I don't watch those kinds of shows. So I don't know how I watched it, but she took her hour show and a half an hour of it. She put out this information. She said that blonde hair, blue-eyed children were not as smart as brown-haired, brown-eyed children. And people were calling into the show saying, yes, that's true. I have one blonde hair, one brown hair, and it's true. And the audience was saying, everyone was agreeing. And then, but the blonde hair, blue-eyed people were crying, saying, I'm just as smart as anyone else. And it started this whole big thing. And then halfway into the show, she says, okay, so that's not true. I just said that. But it got everyone involved. Everyone believed it. People started saying, yes, I see that, you know, and then other people were hurt. So what you write in your book makes a difference. How you describe people and depict people in your book. If you're writing about the other, people believe it. When I was growing up, the way I acted, my mother always chastised me about acting a certain way, because the way I acted represented all Black people. People will look at me and say, see, that's how Black people act. It was like I represented everyone. And that's the same thing in your book. You're representing a culture. If you write it that way, you're representing a culture and things that they do and how they act. That's what Catherine Sackett got in trouble about. She wrote her whole book in this dialect that supposedly all the Black people, I guess, around her spoke. So that represented that to other people. This is how Black people, granted, she wrote about Black people in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s. This is how they acted. That's not necessarily true. So, what should you write when you're trying to write a book about anything or anyone? You should write literature that reflects and honors the lives of everyone, right? Get it right, in other words. Whatever you write about someone, get it right. You don't want to be stereotypical. You don't want to appropriate people's cultures. But that's not to say you can't write about them. You just have to be careful. You should write something that helps others to get a sense of oneself. How many times do I hear now that these authors that are finally breaking into the traditional publishing field and they are marginalized writers saying, I never read a book that depicted me. I didn't write a book about gay people. I didn't read a book about Asian people or Muslims or whatever, but everyone was something else. It was a story of a white person growing up or whatever. It was never, they didn't see themselves being depicted. So yes, you include other people so other people can get a sense of themselves in the book.
I have a question here at this point.
Yes.
Abby, you're referring to protagonists, right? I mean, you can make your villain, well, you don't want to make your villain too lovable, right? I mean, I just finished writing a book called Sins of the Fathers, and the bad guys were skinheads, Klansmen, and a lot of the bat crazy people on that side of the fence.
But let me ask you this: are only Klansmen and skinheads bad people? Because
No.
I've seen a whole bunch of serial killers that just look like regular people. So
No, they
Yeah.
were. Are you asking me, were all the skinheads bad people?
No, yeah, I'm asking. I'm asking, when you think about bad people, are you saying that they can only be people like skinheads or Nazis or
Oh,
those
no,
people?
no.
Right.
But in that book, I didn't portray any really good side to those people at all.
And those people may have
just-
good sides. All
Huh?
skinheads aren't bad people.
Well, they had dogs they fought.
Not all of them, right?
Oh, no.
That's what I mean. So, it's okay to say that, but why create your character that is stereotypical? A skinhead is associated with a bad person. And maybe, I don't know, some of them are the ones we hear about, but aren't there some who, I don't know what ideals they have or whatever, that are not the kind of people that go out and kill people and rob people. So I'm not saying don't write that the skinhead was the bad person, but think about, why did you choose that person to be the skinhead? Because most of the serial killers that I've seen or bad people, they just look like normal people. Pedophiles, I see their pictures and I think, I wouldn't have been afraid of that person. I would have went somewhere with that person, maybe, So that's what this is all about. It's just don't associate certain people with certain activities. Don't think because, and this is no reflection on you, Lynn, at all, but don't think because they're Black that they clean houses, or that because they're in a motorcycle gang that they rip up bars, tear up bars. When you're writing, think about that. Think about, give your characters some depth. And when I do the whole thing on this, I talk about that, background issues and things. Make it a person first and give them how you want them to be in your story, the villain, the bad guy, but give them let them look like something and be something. And you don't have to associate a culture or ethnicity or a religion to them until you've made that character. Does it pop into your head only that certain groups of people only do certain things? And I looked around the room when we were here and we're all older people, and that's the way we grew up. I'm 63 years old. So that's the way you grew up. You associated, like I said in the beginning, I'm Black. And so I represented everybody, every Black person in the world. And certainly there were not, every Black person is not like me, but that's the way we think. All skinheads or all Pakistanis or Syrians or whatever are a certain way.
I got you.
So,
I understand now
yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so create inclusive fiction with characters that come from different identities. That's important, and it helps to portray the real world. And I think that's why you're all here. And that's why you write different characters. You want to portray the real world when you write. So it's not so much write what you know. It's definitely not write what you like. It's just know what you write, right? Know what you're going to write about. You're going to write about a Black person, find out about a Black person. Can you write a Black person in a first person narrative? Probably not if you're not a Black person, because that's a whole experience. But certainly you can look it up, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Look at James Patterson. He wrote Alex Cross. So not only did he write from the perspective of a Black man, he had his mother in there, so a grandmother, and he had children in there. So the perspective of Black children. And I think he just got away with it because it used to be that a white straight male, they could write about everyone else in the world because there was no other writers. So the publishing industry thought that no one else would write, and no one else read books. You know, Black people didn't read books, Asians don't read books, gay people don't read books, you know, and that was their demographic. But of course that wasn't true. I mean, we're all just people, you know, it's just, we differ in things that we like and who we're attracted to, and what God or power, you know, superior being that we look up to. That's how we differ. You know, everybody's got the same heart, same mind, same, you know, brain. We all have brains. We all are the same on the inside, and we grow up basically based on our environment, right? A lot of it some of it has to do with genetics, but I always say environment has a lot to do with it. So when it comes to writing diversity, how do I make sure I get it right? It's really hard. I think sometimes I worry about that. I wrote a book, my Daily Inside Scoop book, the pink cover, that's an ice cream series. I wrote about a Jewish woman and I wanted to get it right. So I asked my friend who's Jewish after I wrote it, because I had an idea of how I wanted this character to be. I wanted her to be a Jewish woman who owned a Chinese restaurant. So I asked my friend Molly, I go, Molly, can you read this and tell me, you know, if I got it right? So, you know, that's one way you can do that. But 3 ways to get it right is determine your motivation. Why are you trying to write about another culture? Why are you including them in your book? Will your book work with someone else in that role? Or does it only work because of this person? And that's why you wrote it, because everyone has been in every kind of role. There isn't a certain role in life that only one type of person has been in. Skinheads is not, you know, have not only been killers or whatever they are. And I don't keep saying that to you, Richard, but that's just a good example that got into my head. And then do your research. When you determine your motivation, do your research to say, okay, so how do I write about this person? What do I want to say about this person? What can I find out about their culture, their background that makes them who they are today? Because that's how we turn out to be who we are right now, is what happened to us during life, right? So you can give that to any character, and then certainly you can assign that person to be something different than just the regular, you know, run-of-the-mill person. You want to give it some depth, you want to give them some character, you want diversity in your story. And then, you know, you build your character. You build your character, and as I said, I don't speak about it because this is a short presentation. You build your character from the person that you want it to be. I want my person to be a villain. Okay, so when you think about a villain, maybe you think someone in a black top hat and a mustache and, you know, a black cape and a cane or something like that. Build it as another person. Build it as just a character, and then give them those attributes. That's what makes the character bad, not what color they are or what country they come from, or, you know, what they subscribe to with other people. It's what's inside of them, what they have learned, their learned behavior. So give your character some learned behavior and put them in your story. That gives them depth, that makes them more believable, it makes them authentic. And you'll get a real story out of that. It'll seem real. So what I like to do, this is Rudine Sims Bishop. She was, I don't know that she still is, but I think she may still be she works at the Ohio State University and she teaches there. She wrote children's books. And she came up with this concept, I think sliding glass doors was added on later, that when you write from these perspectives, either as a mirror, a window, or a sliding glass door. So mirrors are where readers see reflections of themselves in the story, right? And that's what people were saying. I never saw an Asian child in a story when I was growing up. I loved mysteries, but there were no mystery stories for people that were gay or, Black or whatever. So that's the kind of story you can write from a mirror perspective. And that's usually an I person point of view, first person point of view. Windows, readers can see other worlds through the story. So in a window, how you look out of a window and you see the other world. So you're talking about your characters as they are the other, they're the marginalized group, but not so much a part of the story. You're just looking out on them. And so you don't give a lot of depth to your character. You probably wouldn't make them, a main character in the story. And then there's the sliding glass doors. And this is what I'm a proponent of, that this is the way you do it, because the world that we live in today is not all one way, right? So readers enter into other worlds and demographics. And that's how you want to set your story up, so that your readers will come in through a sliding glass door. They can see the world as they actually see it. When they go to work, they take the bus, commute, or to work, they go to lunch, go to the theater, whatever you do in the evenings. The world is diverse. And so should your book be. You just have to be careful of how you write from that perspective. So mirrors is basically own voices. If you're going to write from a certain perspective, you should have lived that perspective or understand that perspective. There was a Costco Jackson, and I saw he just got a new book deal, but he was gay, he's Black, and a man. And he wrote about Kosovo in the 1990s. And he had previously said that if you haven't lived this, then you shouldn't write about it. So he wrote about a Black man living in Kosovo, and his deal got canceled. He actually, I guess, took it back because people were complaining, okay, yeah, you can talk about gay life, you could talk about being a Black person, but you can't talk about living in Kosovo in 1990s. And what he had did was he'd written from that perspective as if he were there and as if he were going through those things, but he didn't actually go through those things. So he said, I'm going to cancel my contract because he wasn't an own voice in there. Could he have told that story? Still, sure, he could have. But could he have told it through the eyes of someone who suffered in Kosovo in 1990? No, because he wasn't there. He doesn't understand it. Perhaps if he had researched, which was one of the things we talked about, and actually spoke to someone from there and spent some time with it and learned about their plight, the feeling of it, researched it, probably he could have. So arguably every writer writes in their own voice, and that's their own voice story. But writing from someone else's point of view may be difficult. I won't say it's impossible. When your diverse character is a major character in your story, the story or all or some of it is told through their eyes. That's a window. So they're characters, they have a part in there, but they're outside of your purview of saying who they are, I think. And then when your story depicts what's in the world, and the readers can enter into it, that's a depiction of the world that we live in. So you have to, I think the biggest thing is to always think about why you're writing the story, and then write from that perspective only after you've done research, only after you've figured out, as I said, your motivation, why you put that person in the story. So this is the one about Kosovo. And I am not going any further in this presentation. But I think that's the most important thing, is you have to think about, why am I doing this? Why does this person have to be Black? Why does this person have to be Asian? Why does this person have to be gay? Why does this person have to be a Seventh-day Adventist? Does it matter to your story? Can you write the story and put anyone else into that place? And if you can, then it's not that you should, but you should write that character like it could be anyone. It could be a white, straight, male person in that, but you want it to be a Black person, just as long as it's not that you wrote it as a Black person because that's what Black people do. You know, they riot or loot. That's what you think. And so this person is rioting and looting, and immediately that's what comes to mind. So that's it for
Great.
me.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you very much. I wrote a couple of questions. I've long been troubled by writing this series of books with a Black and white couple, only because I'm not a Black person.
No?
And
Okay.
but there, in answer to your question, there is no one else who could have done this except Gray. He's the only one who could be her sidekick.
Okay.
And they could only, it depends, the whole premise of the story depends on a Black detective and a white detective working together. And so
Because it's
during,
the 1960s.
and they're working on civil rights murders for
Right.
a civil rights organization. So it
But whose perspective do you write from? What point of view?
mostly from hers, because that's one I know. But when I wrote Gray's backstory, it occurred to me that I wasn't a Black man living in that time. And no matter how much I read about it, or I probably wouldn't get it right. So as in talking about his brother, Gray's younger brother says, Gray talks about a white man, and his brother says, well, the way you just described him, he could be you, except you're Black. He went to Yale on a scholarship. He has worked in white institutions trying to be quote unquote normal and just let his life go on. And then he got caught up in the civil rights movement.
Well, I think that would sound like something that a Black person would say. So that was good that you got that. I think from what you're saying that you're not trying to write it from Gray's point of view. I have had that said to me that I think I'm white. So I think you got it right so far.
Well,
Certainly.
I mean, I have to write it. I have to write his point of view from time to time, because he goes into the Black communities and she goes into the white communities, and then they compare notes. And
Yeah, so that would probably be my only concern, is like when they compare notes, what are those Black people saying? But so
Right.
far, I think you got it right. And that's the last slide I have in this. Don't worry, because we don't, and no one gets everything right. There's
Well,
no
that's
such thing as
true.
a perfect book or a perfect story or perfect characters. We do the best that we can. So don't worry, and don't be afraid to write it. Write your story. Just, remember how, that you don't want to be stereotypical, and you don't want to do cancel culture or anything like that. You don't want to appropriate other people's culture for whatever reason.
So I shouldn't worry about having offended the skinheads.
You shouldn't worry. No, don't worry about it.
Okay.
If you want to say that, they just make sure, what I would do, I would have one skinhead that doesn't want to be involved. I don't want to do this stuff. I came to hang out with you guys. I like to shave my head. You always give the point of view that everyone in that group is not like that, because that's true in the world. Everyone in every group is not the same.
Well,
So
except this is a group of choice,
that doesn't mean that they all want to kill someone.
That's true. That's
All right.
true.
Okay.
Dutch has
I-
a question. Dutch has one last question, and then she has got to go, folks.
Yeah, that's one I was going to read. Is it
When are you
necessary to
coming back?
explicitly identify race?
When are you coming back?
Well, let me answer this question. Is it necessary to explicitly identify race? No. Just like you don't have to explicitly identify eye color or what someone is wearing or describe something. I always teach in my classes, how you walk into a room in a book and they describe everything in there. The desk is in the corner, the couch is in the middle of the room, there's a TV, and on one wall is a painting. No one notices all that stuff when you walk into a room. You don't, I've been over people's houses that I've been over lots of times, and I go, wait, is this picture always here? I never noticed this picture before, because you don't notice everything until it comes up, Same thing with people. I don't walk into a room unless I'm like the only one in the room and say, oh, there's only white people in here. I don't do that. You know, if I walk into a room, I don't go to their race. To each time I meet someone, I don't say this is an Asian person. Oh, this person is Indian, or this person is this. I don't do that. So why would your character do that? You don't have to. So no.
So Abby, I have a question for you. One of the things that I have been called out on for my, excuse me, 1800s novel is diction, in which the way the
dialect and
character
diction.
speaks. The difference between a uneducated person and an educated person.
Is this an uneducated, what color person? Any color person?
Do we have to identify race? You just they're saying that.
No, but I'm
No,
asking,
but
you said you've been called out on it.
Right.
So that's why I was wondering, because if it was just any person, they wouldn't have called you out on it.
Right. And it was a black slave from that time frame. So that's,
but you have to kind of remember, slaves were taught to speak by white people.
Right.
So slaves probably spoke like their masters spoke. Right. I mean, when you're segregated, then you form your own language, and segregation happened, but later, after slavery. During slavery, Blacks were always around white people.
And you might remember, Lynn, I made the argument to you that what you're writing as far as the diction isn't necessarily how Black people or white people were speaking, but it's how white people have written how they were speaking.
Right.
That's what you're reflecting.
Right.
And you're playing to an expectation.
Exactly.
Not necessarily to what is actually real.
Exactly. So I just read an article. I was thinking about naming a character Sojourner, after Sojourner Truth. And people had her speaking, like a slave, and she was actually Dutch. Dutch was her, she grew up in a Dutch area. She wasn't Dutch. She grew up in a Dutch area. Her first language was Dutch. So she probably didn't speak, as people has said she did, because she probably spoke with a Dutch accent, and she was around other people that spoke Dutch. So you have to think about how you are portraying these people. Could they really be like that? I'm thinking that you're thinking in the slave quarters, people came up with their own language that only they understood. And then their slave masters who spoke to them all the time and was there when they were born and probably may have fathered them, spoke to them differently, or they understood them differently. I don't know that happened.
You raised a good point, because I never really gave any thought about how a person who is taken from a tribe over in Africa, thrown into a boat and then taken to America, how they are supposed to interpret a language and orders from a bunch of English speaking people or Spanish speaking people.
And when they learned, how did they learn? They learned to say it the same way that person said it.
Yeah, so that's a click there. That's part of the history knowledge that you don't necessarily get. So that's very helpful.
Yeah, and so that goes back to what I say, research. Just research. If you're going to write about it, research.
I want to ask Abby if she would come back and see us another time. This has been amazing, and we loved having you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. And we're going to let you go only because I know you have to go. Otherwise, you would probably be here all day. Thank you so very much. And I'm sorry about the kerfluffles that we all.
Yeah.
Our dues are only $30 a year, and you're welcome anytime then.
Right. All right.
Thank you.
Then we will start our business meeting and let.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I always say, email me if you need me. That's my email address is abbyl.vandiver@AOL. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I don't go there a lot, and I'm on Instagram. If you have questions, I'm happy to talk. If you want me to read something like a sensitivity reader, I'm happy to do that. I won't read a whole book, but I can read chapters. I'm happy to help, because that's us writers got to stick together.
Thank you. That is exactly what I preach all the time. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.